So what is the vestibular? Let's just recap a wee bit on what was said there in the video. Okay, so what is the vestibular? The vestibular is the sense of balance. It's the first sense to be developed when we're babies in the womb, as I described there. I mean, as parents, this is an important point actually. You know, it's, in other words, the difficulties or the troubles that your child is having now is nothing to do with parenting. That's a relief, isn't it? This all happens at 5 months in the womb. And it's actually, there's a genetic link, because many parents would come to us and say, well, yes, my uncle would have had maybe some of the traits, or even different traits, doesn't matter. I mean, there's my eldest was no concentration and my youngest couldn't read, but they could each do the other, you know. And it's nothing to do with us as women having a glass of white wine or cream cheese in our pregnancy either. It's nothing to do with any of that. But it's certainly not to do with anything that's happened since the child was born. Okay. Obviously, if there's trauma, that's a different thing. But even at that, we still get a lot of, you know, foster children, adopted children who have had trauma in their lives, but we can still make a massive difference for them because everything isn't down to what happened to them since birth. It's happened since 5 months in the womb. So I think that's an important point to make, because let's face it, we all blame ourselves. I thought I didn't read the book right for John when I was whenever I had him, because Peter was so easy and John took that much more work. But it made me a better parent, I hope, John. Anyway, so the vestibular is housed between the canals of the inner ear. There's fluid in there, and there's little filaments that are giving feedback to all of our other senses and receiving feedback from all of our other senses. So what happens when it's underdeveloped? If the vestibular is underdeveloped, the child is going to have difficulty processing information from all of the other senses. That's our sight, our hearing, our taste, touch, and smell. I'm going to go over the main three, which is the sense of sight, the sound, and the touch. And then the other two don't really impact massively on the child, but whenever they're added to all the rest of them, then it just adds to the confusion. So I'll go through the 5 senses. The underdeveloped vestibular is responsible for the child who cannot sit still in class. So let me explain that. When a child is sitting still, okay, the tiny filaments that I'm talking about in this vestibular are sitting really at rest, okay, and we should be able to see and hear and take in instructions with our filaments sitting at rest. But they can't. Theirs is underdeveloped, don't forget. So theirs have to be jangling in order to be able to take in information through the eyes, through the auditory system, and indeed through their skin. So if it's not developed, they have to move more. So therefore, you know, how do they stimulate their vestibular system? How do they stimulate these filaments? Usually by swinging on the chair, jumping around the place. And it's an important point as well. A lot of parents are struggling with their children sitting on Xbox or PlayStation or Minecraft or whatever a lot, okay? Something that our OT that works with us, Patricia McCarthy, sent over to me was the fact that whenever we're sitting playing, say a child's sitting playing Xbox and they're on for maybe more than half an hour, their vestibular system actually goes into shutdown, right? So whenever you take them to say to them, right, come on off that Xbox now, come on and get your dinner, they go daft. They're bouncing about the place. You're going, for goodness sake, you've been sitting there as good as gold. Can you not just come now and sit and eat your dinner? But their system is saying, switch me on. Switch me on. So they may be bouncing over the furniture. They may be running about the place. Okay? So here's a tip right away before we go any further. Get them to switch their vestibular on in a controlled fashion. Get them to do 3-star jumps. So they have to get up from their Xbox, and before you tell them what they're going to do, just go, right, tell you what, 3-star jumps. And I mean 3 up and down, feet leaving the ground, and not sort of a, right, that'll do me, you know. Get the vestibular switched on in a controlled fashion, and hopefully then they'll be able to go, right, okay, I can see here now, orientate where the table is and sit down at the table and eat their dinner. Okay, so that's just a point that, as I say, she said to me. The impact it has on the child. Walk nicely. This is one for you. This will probably resonate with some of you. If your child is walking along the street beside you, right, are they generally running on ahead, bouncing, skipping, all over the joint? They don't fall over, they don't fall off the pavement, They're just running and skipping. And at some point you'll go, will you come here and walk nicely beside me? Walk nicely, I mean, in inverted commas. And they come and walk beside you. And within a couple of minutes, or maybe even within a few seconds, you're actually going, would you move over? Yeah, hopefully that resonates with some of you. That's because whenever they're walking nicely, the vestibular system is at rest. They can't see, they can't orientate their spatial awareness as to where you are. Whereas if they're running and skipping and jumping and up the wall and down the wall, they'll not fall. Their visual system is working perfectly, okay? So that's why they do things like that. Again, questions, fire them in the chat box, I'll answer them later. There's lots of traits, obviously, that are connected with the vestibular system, but I mean, lack of friends is one. They can make friends, but they can't keep friends. You know, we can talk about that if that's applicable. Bullying, a lot of the children are bullied. Frustration, meltdowns, anger, leading possibly to depression. Feeling lonely, feeling different, which leads to no motivation. They don't want to do anything apart from sit in Xbox. By the way, they can concentrate on Xbox, no bother. Okay, give them homework, totally different kettle of fish. Okay, they've already processed Xbox, it doesn't take any more processing. Okay, whereas to write a sentence, they really need to start thinking about it. So that, I know that puts a lot of parents off. They think, sure, they can concentrate on such and such for hours. They're only having a laugh whenever they come to their homework. So difficulty sleeping, forgetting spellings, not able to express themselves, all of which can lead to a lack of confidence and a lack of self-esteem. So how do we develop the vestibular? We use an adjustable balance board. Now, very importantly, this is not a wobble board. A wobble board, you get on it and your whole being is just taken up with trying to stay on the thing. You can't possibly throw a bean bag in a controlled fashion the way we need them to, as you saw in the video. So this is an adjustable balance board, and there's rockers on the bottom of them that adjust throughout the year. If you're like that on a balance board, you've put your back into shock, your spine into shock, and you've attached your brain to fight or flight. Most of these children are too much in fight or flight. So the last thing we want to do is put them further into it, okay? The primary aim of the Performance Breakthrough Balance Board is to develop the system, the vestibular system, gradually. Okay, so we take it very, very easy. There's some children we will start off with at 1 minute a day on this balance board, trying something, maybe throwing a beanbag back and forward, and we work with each individual family. And again, we would discuss that at your initial assessment and whenever you receive the kit. Importantly, all of these exercises within a maximum of 15 minutes, 5 days a week. That's maximum. 15 minutes, 5 days a week. Integrate all of the senses, okay, within that one session. And vitally, after 3 months, once a connection has been made, so say a child starts retaining their spellings, once they've started that connection, in 3 months that's hardwired, okay? So they don't go back to going to bed at night and thinking, I wonder will I be able to spell what tomorrow? Or getting a spelling right on a Friday and then on the Monday writing a sentence and you're going, how did you get that wrong? Sure, you got it right in the Friday test. Okay, so they won't go back to where they were. As long as you keep going, they will not go back. Okay, it takes a year, and generally that's it. Okay, my sons would stand on it if they were going for an interview or something like that, maybe the night before, just to sharpen them up, just to make sure that they've done everything they possibly can, that they haven't needed it since they did it originally. So that's the vestibular. Okay, so all about the balance board.